What is up, guys? It's been a hot minute. Did you miss me? We're going to go over where I've been towards the end of the video, but we are going to be having some more content come out soon. And today we're going to talk about something that I find to be extremely important if you actually plan to be good at any card game you play. And that is the ability to look 5 turns ahead in the future for yourself, as well as anticipate what your opponent is going to do on their next turn. We're going to go over this very important aspect of playing any card game in this video. So if this is your first time around, thank you for checking me out. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching my video. Truly chat of you to do that. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go over how to look into the future of what your plays are going to be, how to read what your opponent is going to do, and why those things are so important. So in today's examples, I've decided to use a deck that I know is going to be very easy for pretty much any player to pick up, the Charizard EX deck. I'll put a quick screen grab up here so you can see what the deck profile is for it. But I did do a full breakdown on this very deck in another video on this channel, which I'll link in the description down below. So here to start, in this freeze frame of the first hand of the game, you can see we have 2 Charmanders, a Pidgey, a Thornton, a Boss's Orders, an Ultra Ball, and a Super Rod. Honestly, not the greatest of opening hands, but we need to keep in mind what this deck wants to do more than anything else. And that is get 2 particular EX Pokemon on board, EX Charizard and EX Pidgeot. As we know, those are the 2 key objectives to this deck, and getting them on board puts pressure on your opponent. So when you open up your first opening hand, you should look at your cards and say, how can I make that happen as quickly as possible? Starting with 2 Charmanders and a Pidgey isn't terrible, but it's not ideal. We want to find a way to get into a rare candy. But having the 2 Charmanders to start is also not terrible. The version of Charmander that I run has an attack that costs 1 fire energy that allows you to get rid of stadium cards in play. This can be a very important factor when playing against some decks, especially the one that we're going to be playing against now, which is the new Evolution deck. But since I'm recording this with the knowledge of hindsight, we're going to go into it assuming that I don't know what I'm playing. So the question then becomes, if I'm playing against a deck that I don't know what it is, what is the first thing I should do if I open with a hand like this? Let's go over what we know about the cards we currently have in our hand and how we can benefit from them in the here and now. So we know that Pidgey is not the greatest Pokemon in the world. It does have Call for Family, which is not bad. It's essentially a Buddy Buddy Poffin. And we know that Charmander has 1 attack that costs 2 fire energies that actually deals damage, and 1 attack that just burns through stadiums but does not deal damage. Thornton allows us to swap one of our Pokemon in our discard pile with a Pokemon on our bench or in our active. Boss's Orders allows us to switch a Pokemon from our opponent's bench to their active. Ultra Ball is a search card for the cost of 2 cards, and Super Rod allows us to put a trainer or an energy from the discard pile back into our deck. So right now, the object of the game is to play as annoyingly as possible. We want to cause as much disruption as we can to buy ourselves a few turns to see what we draw into. Thornton will come in handy later, but it's not going to be useful right now, and Boss's Orders again handy, but not useful right now. The Ultra Ball is the linchpin to making our plays happen, and we know that. Because Ultra Ball is one of the only cards in this deck that can search for an EX that we'll actually use, like Charizard or Pidgeot. So we're going to open this game by playing Charmander in our active, playing a Charmander on our bench, and playing a Pidgey on our bench. What we draw into will determine what we do our next turn. But as of right now, the most important thing we can do is get some draw power. So on our second turn, we're going to use Ultra Ball to toss Super Rod and Thornton to pull to board something that can cause more pressure to our opponent. Most likely something with draw power, something like Rotom or Luminion, because our opponent knows that the longer the game goes on, the more powerful we're going to become. Which is true of any deck, but is especially true with Charizard. It's really easy to pop off. It only takes a handful of cards for that to happen. So for our opponent to win, he's going to have to win as quickly as possible. Right now we can only see 3 clear turns into the future. So let's recap those one more time. Charmander to active, Charmander to bench, Pidgey to bench, start game. If we don't draw into anything that actually helps, we'll use Ultra Ball to pull Rotom to our bench. We'll use Rotom's Draw 3 ability to unbrick our hand. So the card that we drew into was a Fire Energy. Honestly, not optimal. But we took a second while he was setting up his plays to read what Flareon EX does, so let's go back and look at that real quick. I've never played against this deck before, and the most important thing you can do when you're playing against the deck is to read the card text. Because a lot of times you can gather what the deck wants to do based on the context of the first few cards that they play. So let's break down this Flareon real quick. It has an ability called Rainbow DNA. This Pokemon can evolve into any Pokemon EX that evolves from an EV if you play it from your hand onto this Pokemon, but you can't evolve it during the first turn or during the turn you play the card. It has an attack called Coruscated Quartz, which takes 3 different energies and does 200 damage. So let's read the context clues here. We know that he opened suboptimally because he had to play his switch to move his Flareons. Either that or it was a misplay on the user's end. We know that he has a Magma Basin on board, which is an energy recursion card that allows him to attach fire energies from the discard pile to Pokemon on his bench. So if we are to assume he's not going to evolve this Flareon, then all he has to do is commit 2 different energies to one Pokemon, which means that can only happen a handful of ways consistently. But the most probable is that he has a Pokemon with an attack or an ability that will allow him to search his deck for energies and attach them to Pokemon. Looking at our hand, we can see that we have all the same cards as before, but now we also have a Fire Energy. With a Charizard deck, drawing into your energies is typically not good, but in this instance it's actually really good. Because turning off Magma Basin will turn off part of his energy recursion system, which is important for these decks that run multi-types of energies. We know that even if he does have a Pokemon that has an attack that would search for energies, that he doesn't have any energy committed to board right now, so we're safe for at least 1 turn. And to the best of my knowledge, the only support or item that can search any place for energies is Sada's Vitality or Dark Patch. Both of those require dark energies, and one of them requires ancient Pokemon. So this tells me that I have a little bit of room to breathe. We know that since he played an EXP share on his back row Flareon, that he's hoping for us to knock out this Flareon with some kind of energy attached to it that's not a fire type. Because I can tell just by looking at the board that he plans on using Magma Basin to attach fire energies to the back row Flareon, and then put any other kind of energy on the front row Flareon, take a fat L, and then attach it to the other Flareon, the one on the back row. By doing this, he'll be 2/3 of the way through getting his Flareon set up. This would be not good for us, so the first thing we need to do is use our boss's orders to pull the Flareon to board. The second thing that we need to do is use the fire energy on the Charmander to get rid of the Magma Basin. We want to cut off all supply lines to give us as much time as possible, because we know that the most probable thing to happen is for whatever his Flareon to evolve into to get him his other 2 energies. We need to try to do this as frequently as possible, as quickly as possible. So we got our Arven, finally. This is really good because now we have all the cards we need to pop off. But is it a safe pop off? Well, let's go back and look at that other Eevee that showed up on screen a second ago. Really, its attack is pretty much negligible, it doesn't matter. But it's that ability. And that ability tells us something important. Boosted evolution. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, it can evolve during your first turn or the turn you play it. But you see, by playing this card in the back row, he accidentally told us 2 important things. The first thing is that our suspicion of him not opening optimally is confirmed by having this card in the back row. The second is that he has nothing that he wants to commit on top of it, which means he's waiting for a Eevee evolution to come in and really sweep me. That means the time to attack is now, Now it's the best possible time to make our move. We're going to use our Arven to pull a Rare Candy to hand and a Defiance Band to hand. We don't really care so much about what Defiance Band does this game. The important thing is that it's a safe target for Ultra Ball. And the Pokemon we're going to opt to search for this time is going to be Charizard, and the reason for that being because we want pressure on board. And the reason for that, you might be asking, how do I know that we want pressure now? Well, let's look at his board, right? He's got an Eevee that he committed to board, but honestly isn't really going to do much for him right now. A Charmander on board, another Flareon with EXP share, and a Flareon with Defiance Band. We know that the first Eevee, the Eevee with the ability to evolve whenever he wants it to, is not very important right now. If he wanted to do something with that, he would have done it last turn, because that ability is too good to just waste. We know he committed a Charmander to board, which tells us that his plan B is probably Charizard EX. And we know he still has his original plan of using Magma Basin and EXP Share to buff the back row Flareon EX. Alternatively, he could also be going for the Pokemon Go version of Charizard, which I'll show on screen now. It effectively makes it to where fire energies count as 2 instead of 1. But that Zard doesn't see a lot of play, so the safe bet it's going to be a Charizard EX. He's trying to put us on the back foot, but he can't do it because he doesn't have the energies to commit. He only has 2 cards in hand, and we have the opportunity to not only get our Charizard on board, but also get energies to another Pokemon. Now, I've never played against this deck before. This is a brand new deck that I've bumped into. So I'm a little skittish to make big risk plays, but the safe bet is that right now I have the opportunity to go off and do damage, and if we can start pushing for damage now, we can get an early advantage that he might not be able to come back from. So step 1, we're going to use Arven to pull our Rare Candy and our Defiance Band. Then we're going to use our Ultra Ball to search for Charizard EX. Having the Charizard EX on board is going to force him to start generating energy faster to start hitting us, because once we start hitting him with Charizard, there's no way he's going to be able to out-damage us unless he has something that can one-hit knock out the Charizard. Like, that's his optimal play, is to knock out the Charizard without us hitting him or doing minimal damage. But few cards in this game can do that right now, so well, lads, as you saw, I made a bit of an oopsie daisy there and accidentally put 3 energies on Charizard EX. Not a big deal, not detrimental to our game plan here, but our suspicions were confirmed. There was an evolution that is gonna recur his energy, so let's look at that real quick. This Flareon has 2 attacks, but the first one is the most important. Burning Charge, it takes a fire energy and any other energy. Does 130 damage, and it has this effect. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle the deck. It has a second attack as well that takes 3 different energies, a fire, a water, and an electric. It does 280 damage, but then he can't attack next turn. So as we theorized, his energy recursion system is primarily coming from the Flareon EX that he evolved from his original Flareon. He plans to commit 1 fire energy and 1 of any other energy to get 2 energies onto a back row Flareon, just like we originally had thought we would. And this is why getting rid of Magma Basin and forcing him to retreat was so important earlier. Because had we have not put that pressure on him, he would already be ready to pop off on us. And 280 damage is nothing to scoff at, especially with the Charizard that's already got 50 damage on it. That would knock out this Charizard. So this is what I like to call the turning point in a match. Our next couple of plays are going to determine whether we win or lose this game. Looking at the hand we currently have now, we have a Rare Candy and a Super Rod. So should things go sideways with Charizard, we do have a way to get our energies back in the deck to use a Rare Candy on our other Charmander to start it all over again. But with that being said, it would take time for us to be able to knock out that Flareon, and since 280 damage will do the bulk of the damage needed to do to Charizard to knock him out, that wouldn't be ideal for us to do. So what we want to do is force him to bring out that other Flareon, the Flareon EX that he evolved earlier, to the front as quickly as we can so we can start dealing damage to it. Even if he hits us with that first attack, it's not going to be enough to knock out Charizard. The scary part is the second attack. That's how this deck works. So let's take a second, since we're both learning this deck together, to look at the context clues that we saw at the beginning and see if we were correct about how this deck operates from the very beginning of the match. We saw him put the Flareon EX out, we saw that it had 3 different energies, and we saw that its ability was really good. We knew that by him needing 3 different energies, it was going to have some sort of energy system that would allow him to pull energy cards from this deck that wasn't a fire type. And the reason why we know that they're not going to be fire types is because that is the purpose of Magma Basin, to get fire energies to his Pokemon. The insider information that we got from the Eevee that he played earlier that allows him to evolve at the turn he plays it also told us that he didn't open the greatest. At the very least, he didn't open how he wanted to. And we know that by him putting the Charmeleon in the front line and putting the other Charmander on the back line, he's trying to force us to knock out the Charmeleon to take a prize so he can put his Flareon up front for free without us hurting it. So the question then becomes, how do we damage trade with a Pokemon that can greatly outdamage us in the early game? And to answer that question, you only have to really look at one simple thing. How many turns can we survive before he gets his big attack going? As of this moment in the game state, I feel pretty comfortable saying that we can survive at least 1 turn. The Flareon will hit us, but it's not going to knock us out, and he's not going to have the energy he needs to knock out the Charizard this turn. And we know that should he knock out the Charizard that we have in the active, we do have a Rare Candy, and there is a chance we could bump into our other Charizard with our draw, because we're halfway through our deck basically at 38 cards. And I personally can assume that playing against a multi-type energy deck like this that doesn't have a massive way of getting those other types of energies that he needs to his hand, the lightning energy and the water energy, that he probably runs a minimal amount of those at most. I would say he probably only runs 4 total of those 2 energies, like combined, 2 lightning and 2 water. Now that last bit is a general assumption based on my experience playing against people that run these kind of decks. And there are some exceptions to that rule. Like with the Teal Mask Ogerpon deck that we saw last format. That deck was nutty, but it also had like 3 different ways of getting energy to hand really easily. And if this deck had that kind of play, we would have already seen it by now with 2 Tauros. So looking at his field, looking at my hand, and looking at my field, we're going to assume that boy's got no plays. Does he have his boss monster out? Yeah, he does. Did he put us in a predicament we're not going to be able to take 2 prizes? I mean, yeah, right now. But that's okay. I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit to knock out this Charmeleon. And since we know he's using his Charmeleon as a sacrificial lamb, we can pretty much assume that he's going to bring out the Flareon he evolved earlier, attach an energy to it with Magma Basin. That will activate his energy recursion system that he desperately needs at this point. After he hits us with the attack to get his 2 energies, then I'm going to assume on his next turn, assuming I can't change my game state, that he will attach those 2 energies to the other Flareon. That way when we knock out the Flareon that he brings to the front, that Flareon will be good to go. At that point, the game is going to be really rough for us. But there are some other factors I'm also considering, such as if he is running a low energy count of the lightning and the water, are they prize cards? Because again, I feel like we would have seen this by now. Like, we should have seen this play by now. If they weren't prize cards, we would have seen at least 1 other energy committed at this point with 30 cards left in his deck. So we're going to put Charizard, we're going to test his mettle. We're going to put him up there and we're going to see how this plays out. So just to recap so that we're not getting lost in the sauce here, so that you guys are understanding what's happening, we're going to say that he is going to let us knock out the Charmeleon. bring the Flareon EX he evolved last turn up to the front, put an energy on it in some way, probably using Magma Basin, although he could attach one from the hand. He will then use his first attack to attack us, dealing the 130 damage, I believe. That will set up his other Flareon with the lightning and water energies he needs. So that's his turn 2. He'll end his turn by letting the Flareon that he evolved last turn sit in the active. At that point, he's waiting for us to kill it so that he can use Experience Share to drag it to the back. Then he's going to attempt to swing on our Charizard that we evolve using the rare candy later to finish us out. Now, as I play this, I also see this be a thing that people like to do when they play against Charizard, and that is that for whatever reason, they really like to hate on Pidgey. Pidgey is our main way of searching cards in our deck, so it does make sense from a strategic point of view to bring Pidgey to the front. But if he does pull our Pidgey to the front, at this point, that would be ideal for us, because then our Charizard isn't taking any damage. So if he did use a boss's orders to bring our Pidgey to the front to get his energies going, that's not going to do anything but solidify our victory against the Flareon he puts out up front. So that would be a worst possible play he could do, in my opinion. Like, that play, not even a reality for us right now. Could we do it? I mean, sure, we could. There's a chance we could luck into making it happen, but having Pidgeot on board with the 2 cards we have is not going to help us. We need the other Charizard. So knowing everything that we know, I still feel like we can win this game. I still feel like we pretty much have this game. These are all things you just kind of need to take into consideration when you're playing against people on live or in real life, that not everything is going to go according to plan, but by reading the clues of the cards, you kind of know what's going to happen and you kind of understand how their deck works. And with all that being said, we're going to let this play out and see what happens. Okay, well, we were mostly right. He took the bait with the Pidgey, which is good for us, so he made an oopsie by not getting rid of the Pidgey. That will maybe come back to haunt him later. He's trying to buy time so that he can get the energy he needs to make this happen. And for some reason, whether it be misplay or otherwise, he didn't use the Magma Basin like I thought he would. Had he have done that, this would have been a lot harder to win. But we drew into our other Charizard, so that's your GG at this point. We've pretty much won. All we gotta do now is use our rare candy to evolve our Charmander into a Charizard. Then we have 2 Charizards on board. And it is going to be really, really tough for him to beat us with 2 Charizards on board. That's especially true if he knocks out the first one. But we know he's not going to. He's got no cards in hand. He has no way to get cards in hand. He is using only the materials he has on board right now. Our playing up to this point and his suboptimal start is the reason why we are able to win this game. But there is the little problem of having Pidgey in our active, which can be easily solved with Charizard using Infernal Rain. Will that burn an energy? Yes, it will. And we can't use Magma Basin to put it on Charizard because as Charizard EX, he is a Dark type, not a Fire type. But that doesn't honestly really matter. We can just use the Super Rod to get the energy back into the deck after we use it on Pidgey to retreat him. So at this point in the game when I was playing, I felt pretty confident that the game was mine. There was nothing he could really do to stop me. He didn't have the energies committed, he doesn't have any cards in hand for any further plays, and the 2 fire energies that he does have in his discard pile are not really going to help him that much right now. His opportunity to commit energies to board is done, because we're about to knock out this Flareon as you'll see in the video. And once that Flareon goes down, it's going to take 2 full turns for him to even be able to get 2 energies to the back row Flareon to even do anything. And our other Charizard's not going to let that happen. Because, you know, 180 and 180 is 360, and there's no way that that Flareon with 270 health is surviving that. So our play for this turn is to use the rare candy to evolve our Charmander into a Charizard and use Infernal Rain to put a fire energy onto the Pidgey so that we can retreat him. We'll then retreat the Pidgey, put our Charizard back out, the one that has 50 damage on it. Then we'll use the Super Rod to put the energy back in the deck. We'll have that fire energy in case we need to draw into it later, but I really don't think we're going to need it. Once we knock out this Flareon, his hope of winning this game is pretty much dead. So here are the key takeaways that I want you to learn from this video. The first and foremost is that you need to know the ins and outs of your deck in order to be able to do this little trick, this hack, whatever you want to call it. Strategy, I guess. The only way you're going to really be able to play any deck to its fullest potential is in knowing exactly what the deck wants to do, knowing exactly what your key combos are, and knowing exactly how to play yourself out of a hole. Once you understand that, you can really start to get into the nitty-gritty of learning how to capitalize on your opponent and learning how to read what your opponent's deck does. And this is a bit of a longer form video that kind of goes into exactly how to do this one thing. I do have a video coming out in the future talking about more things you can do to make yourself a better player. So if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for checking me out. Like I said before, I really do appreciate it. The content should be more continuous now. And really quick, I'll talk about where I've been these past couple of months. For those of you that don't know, I'm a guitar player and a singer for a band called Evil Lavante. Recently we put out a music video and have been recording songs on our newest album we have coming out called Headcanon. That has been occupying a good bit of my time on top of playing shows, and I do all the management for the band as well, so that eats up a good chunk of my life. Things aren't really slowing down, but I'm getting more openings in my life to be able to do this sort of stuff because I love making these videos. But yeah, so that's where I've been. If you have any questions about anything that I've gone over in this video, please let me know. I'll make a response that goes over all the questions you guys have so there's a no error or anything. I want to see you guys grow and become better card game players as I grow and become a better card game player. Anyway, that's all for this video. I'll let the video play out so you guys can see how it ends. Thank you all so much for coming around, and I really do appreciate it. See you in the next one.